Hey, good morning and welcome to Thursday Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am the spiritual anarchist, Dan, your host. Tune in to revolution.radio every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, and I will be broadcasting. I want to give a special thanks to revolution.radio for bringing me on board this year. Today is December 26th in the year of all of us, 2024. And this year just went by in the blink of an eye. So today I got a good episode coming up. I'm going to about halfway through. I've got some predictions that my friend psychic Sonia Hortzman has for 2025, and this is a little bit different because this is like a back and forth conversation. We actually don't always agree on things, and I kind of I added my commentary as we went through her predictions. And they kind of match at the end, but I just have a conspiratorial analyst mindset to everything. So, of course, that's what I, add to it. And these predictions are definitely something I would listen to. But this morning, well, before I even say that, Revolution.radio is the number one supporter listener radio platform in the world. Go to tabs, go to the donation tab on the main page, and if you have a little extra, give a little extra, and it's what keeps us up and running. So Christmas time, talk a little bit about that. I'm not drinking my normal morning Marine Corps turpentine that I usually drink. This is special chocolate flavored coffee, chocolate grounds that I got for Christmas. Let me take a sip of it. Good stuff. So Christmas time isn't always the best time of year for a lot of people. I mean, when I worked in law enforcement, there was more crime around the holidays. More crime, like real crime, not man's law. I'm talking more theft, more shoplifting, all that stuff. There was way more suicides. And I talked about this on Thanksgiving, but I think part of that is because there's an expectation that people put around the holidays. Maybe they had one or two good ones, and they remember those, and they never can quite get back to that. And for a lot of people, especially people like me at 53 years old, we're in middle age. I like to see we're really in like 3/4 age, and by the time you get to a certain age, you people have left you. People have passed on and transitioned to a different frequency. They're no longer walking with us. We miss them. We love them. And so it could be a very depressing time of year for a lot of people. So for any of you people out there, just understand they can see you. You are loved. And I've had bad times around the holidays myself, but something weird happened to me. And I don't know if it's because of everything going on in the world, but yesterday and Christmas Eve this year, the Christmas this year, turned out to be a very reflective one for me. And I felt the warmth of love from lost loved ones' memories. The memory of them filled me with a certain warmth. So I was fortunate, and I've lost a lot of people. I lost a couple of good friends this year, and parental, my stepdad, my real dad, just close friends. We've all got this, and with what we got coming up in the world, we're going to lose people. So for anyone who's had a hard time around Christmas, I get it. I trust me, I get it. Just know that your loved ones, they're back with the Father in the Sea of Lights. They can see us. They're aware of the awe. They probably were with you and you didn't even know it. Try to take some kind of solace in that fact. Okay, I don't get into some of the origins of Christmas. I'm not going to get into some of the occult practices and things where a lot of these holidays originate from. I know here in America, it's usually a time for friends and family. Just keep it simple. That's what I'm going to do. Use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. And a lot of people don't have that. And a lot of people's families, there's a lot of internal fighting and strife with families. So we've got that going on, but there's still goodness. And I would say going forward in the world, we have to try to find and pay attention to that goodness and focus our attention on that and create more of that for ourselves. So this is the time of year where I like to do a lot of it's like the last week of the year. And for me, it's always a time of reflection and introspection. And I've got four things I usually concentrate on. What were my wins? What were my losses? What are the blind spots? And for me, well, they ask, well, what are your unhealed traumas? Because we all have them. I don't care who you are. You have them. And sometimes that garden needs to be reweeded. And I have in the past said that I am 80%, 85 to 90% healed from my time with the government and childhood and everything else. And if you read my book, Rise from Darkness, Who Are They? You can find out a lot about, how an ex-cop and a former United States Marine turned into a spiritual anarchist. And it's even a shame that I have to hyphenate that word. But if you don't hyphenate that word, people automatically think anarchy means chaos. So I wanted to find something here real quick. Let me see if I can. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I'm doing something really fast here. This is live radio, so this happens from time to time. I didn't set this one thing up I wanted to have set up ahead of time. Okay. Setting something up here before I continue. There it is. That's what I wanted. Hold on. All right, so let me back this up a little bit. And okay, folks, here we go. So reflection and introspection. Without reflection and introspection, there is no forward growth. Don't get addicted to being stuck in, constantly wanting to do shadow work and this and that. But when something pops up, pay attention to it, because I had that happen this year. But I'll start off. I don't want to be negative. You don't want to be hard on yourself either. So what were my wins this year? I had some wins. We've all had these wins, and you should say your wins first, because it gives you strength to say the other things, in my opinion. And some of the wins were, I started off 2024 with 2 speaking events in Florida. And to Corey Engelot, if you're listening, thank you for setting those up for me. One of them ended up being a Trump rally, which I busted his chops over, but that's okay. Take another sip of my coffee. I got interviewed on somebody's podcast who wrote a book called Deplorable Ones. It's Kathy Chamberlain. You could find her, type Kathy Chamberlain and you'll find her. That was cool. One of my major wins this year was, honestly, it was a surprise, was just getting to be able to get on revolution.radio to continue to get my voice out there. Another win is I learned how to listen a little bit more. There were times with more than once where somebody was in crisis or somebody was having an issue, and I just listened to them. I gave them an ear, or I helped them out. I helped them out in some way, and gave them some type of confidence and comfort. As a yoga instructor, they teach you to leave people in their confidence, and that's what I always endeavor to do. Sometimes I would use the tarot, and I would let the tarot guide me into giving them advice, because I'm not psychic in the same sense that Sonia is. Even though I got people telling me that I got developing gifts, so they won't waste their time with me. I don't I want to say I'm clairaudient, but I have heard things. Clairaudient, the ex-Marines hearing voices. It's kind of a joke. But that was one of the things I got better at. And then came all the losses. I blinked my eyes and there was just losses. I lost friends. I had some bad luck. I had to move. I had some things go on. There were some curveballs thrown at me. And again, the Hermetic principle of rhythm states the pendulum will swing to the opposite direction, and it goes to the good and to the bad. So this had nothing to do with karma for me. I don't always look at everything as karma. The law of rhythm is another Hermetic principle found within natural law. So I just had to deal with some stuff, and I had some real hits to my confidence come up this year. Something else that happened for me this year was I had a blind spot pointed out to me. And see, these blind spots, how can I find my own blind spot? Well, I really didn't find my own blind spot, but you see the reactions to others in certain instances, and there's your blind spot. And I've always said that I'm 85 to 90% healed from my time with the government. But that part that I'm not, that part of me, my strengths are my weaknesses, because I pick up on any type of contrived circumstance. If there's something that's rather simple, and then a bunch of directions start getting added to it, and I can really pick up on contrived circumstances. And a lot of times people want to do things in a certain nuanced way to actually help you. Okay. So I have to remember, not every manipulation is something that's maniacal against me. I've said this before. when my daughters were little, I manipulated them into eating some scrambled eggs for breakfast instead of a cupcake, because I didn't want them having a sugar spike. I wanted them having protein. And so not every manipulation is bad, but when I was with the government, I endured so many psychological operations and ops, and I had to play dumb. I had to play dumb for them. So now when I sense anything is like that, I immediately shut down against it. And I can tell, and that's not always good. Because twice this year I had that as a problem, and it really was bad in September. Something in September, I won't go into details, but it had something to do when I was out bigfooting by myself. There's a couple of contrived things that happened, and I end up throwing out the baby with the dirty bathwater and don't take any of it seriously. And sometimes people do things in a nuanced way to actually help you. So that's one of my blind spots. That was one of my unhealed. That's where I look at my unhealed traumas, and I had to realize, hey, you need to get by this. So that's something I'm going into the new year to do. Because those of you out there, I'm not going to mention your names. Some are a little more well-known than others. But I am well aware of how you've helped me. Don't think I'm not. So that's nothing. Oh, by the way, I have this running joke with my daughter where I'll ask her, I'll say, hey, who's the boss of you? And when she was little, she would say, mommy, I'm like, well, I'm the boss of mommy, so that means I'm the boss of you. And she's like, no, you're not. Mommy's the boss of you. So there's always a fun thing. And then I texted her one time and asked her who the boss. I told her, I'm the boss of you. And she replied, and this is from the movie the Infinity Gauntlet. And it was that scene where at the very end of the movie, Actually, it wasn't Infinity Gauntlet. I'm sorry, it was the End Game. And we're in that End Game right now, folks, in real world, where Thor looked over at Star-Lord because, you know, Star-Lord. God, I'm so proud. That was a Christmas present all in itself. So that was kind of awesome. But yeah, you gotta find where your unhealed traumas are and heal them because they'll hold you back. And I realized I've with everything I've got going on, and I let some things. It's not an insult to my intelligence. It's my ego that jumps out in front. So sometimes we have to retame our egos. And that's one of my takeaways on my reflections on this past year. One of my other reflections on this past year is dealing with a very real phenomenon that happens when you help people. And when you help people, a lot of times they sooner or later will develop some type of resentment towards you. And there's different ways you can help people. You can help people by money. They may have asked for it and you helped because they were hurting, or they came to you for advice, or they were in some kind of crisis, and you help them. And later on, they, in some kind of way, they end up resenting you. And then and this comes from a space of egoically driven insecurity. We're all human. We all have this. So this is why whenever I help somebody, and first off, I don't talk about it. The second thing is I do it from a space of I've been helped before. I know where you're at. So we don't have to later on develop resentment towards the person that helped you. I've seen it. It's a phenomenon. It really is a phenomenon. And like I said, it comes from a space of insecurity, and we can't have that. We have to be able to move forward. And part of that just you got to admit when you're wrong. If you made a mistake, you own it. And then you don't focus on it anymore, because it's going to pop back up. If you bury it down deep, it's in there, and all it's going to do is fester. Okay, all it's going to do is create more internal strife for you, more self-loathing. And sometimes you end up having more self-loathing over an action you didn't take versus an action you did. And the longer you know you were wrong about something and don't say something about it, and don't say it out loud to somebody, to see the reflection and validation in the eyes of another. You don't be afraid to be vulnerable. That's the most important thing I could say for certain people going into this year. Don't keep your blinders on going into this new year. If you've done something, if you made a mistake, just own it. It's the best thing you can do. And it's just something to be aware of. And I've noticed with myself, anytime somebody has done me wrong, and we all get done wrong, I mean, objectively so. Not every single instance you have control over. When we want to try to assign some type of percentage of blame to ourselves over, an incident that may have occurred that was adverse between, an interaction with you and someone else. Sometimes you want to, hey, what did I do wrong here? I'm not saying you shouldn't have that introspection, but sometimes that's just your own ego wanting to still be in control. And you may not have had anything to do with any of it. It may have nothing to do with you. You had no control over this person, betraying you in some way. So don't try to act like you had some kind of control over it. It's okay to have been victimized, and then you get up out of it. You get up out of it. Don't ever, ever, ever look down on anybody who's tried to help you. Never start to resent them later on, especially when it's somebody who's, has been a train wreck and has been where you're at. So I never act better than anybody when I help them. And the best people know how to receive. And that's, again, going back to my unhealed traumas. Because of my past, the things I had to deal with, sometimes I'm not so good at receiving, or I don't care about nuanced, small manipulations. If I sense something is amiss and isn't completely authentic, I have a bad habit of, even when it might be a good, you know, manipulation, I guess, to help me, I've got a bad habit of just backing out of it. And that's something I'm going to work on for this year. Then something that I think we need to also work on coming up for this year is going to be understanding that our emotions serve a purpose. And we've got dark social engineers that don't want men to ever get angry. They've got women thinking that if a man treats her nice, he's a simp, and if he gets angry, he's toxic. No, that's extremes. Be balanced, and try to teach people that anger is okay. The sacred gift of anger, it is a gift, but you need to focus that anger. If you can focus your anger and make those actions pinpoint, make it focus your actions about what you're angry about. Identify where that anger's from. And is it righteous anger, or is it frivolous, ego-driven bullshit? Okay. Keeping in mind, wisdom is not the presence of knowledge. It is the absence of bullshit. So we have to harness healthy aggression as passion towards a greater purpose. Channeling that healthy aggression or that frozen anger towards a greater purpose. It's helped me doing that. Unhealthy aggression would be like dominating, right? It would be dominating. It would be ego driven. So we don't want that type of unhealthy aggression. But the kind of aggression that I'm talking about is, I got 5 points here to harnessing a healthy aggression and to bettering your life, even if at first it's not bettering it. Number 1, quit that job. If this job is stealing your soul, quit it. I even say quit it without even having another job. Force yourself into a situation where you have to find something better. Number 2, leave that relationship. So a lot of people stay in these relationships because they feel like they have no other choice, or they've grown too old and they can't find somebody else. And they're in this codependent relationship with somebody, or they just lack the courage to be alone. Be alone for a while. It's solitude. Make it solitude. Better yourself while you're alone. Number 3, and this is important, don't lie to yourself. If you need to, get angry at yourself to force change. Do not, and don't carry your mistakes with you forever. There's a quick story. These 2 monks, I want to tell about 2 monks. These 2 monks taking vows of chastity, meditate, they exercise, they wear those long robes. I'm talking like Tibetan monks. They're walking down a path one day, they get to a river, and there's this beautiful woman there. And she doesn't want to cross the river because she doesn't want to get wet. So the one monk, being of service, picked her up and carried her across the river. And basically, in doing so, he broke his oath by touching a woman, because they had taken vows of chastity. 20, 30 minutes later, when they'd walked back to the village, he was just all distraught. And he said to the senior monk, "I can't believe I did that. I feel so, so bad for doing that." And the senior monk looked at him and said, "You put her down a half hour ago. Why are you still carrying her?" So put your problems down. You make a mistake, don't continue to carry it. Number 4 is fear. Get angry at that fear and power through it. Anxiety is loud and intuition is a whisper. So when I talk about what happened with me in especially September, a little bit in October, but more in September, it was loud, which means it was anxiety. Fear means forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And then number 5 that I have on this list for focusing your anger is to set realistic goals. Okay. So if you want to lose weight, don't say, hey, I want to drop 70 pounds. I want to drop 5 pounds. Or if you want to get up to 100 push-ups and you can only do 5, okay, I want to see if I could do 6 next week. Small, attainable goals that gives you a sense of accomplishment as you go, and a measuring stick is way better than failing that real big one. So definitely set realistic goals. And for me, honestly, this comes out is I need to read more. I need to get out and speak more on what's going on. I really dropped the ball on reading this past year, but I had a lot of other things going on. I could make excuses, but I still had a lot of time I wasted that could have been used reading, and not just research. I like reading comic books. How about some recreational reading? We're not just in this life to be a slave or be constantly turned on in a stage of fighting the misinformation and disinformation that's purposely being put out everywhere. I also, this year, for me personally, I want to meditate more. So here's a good meditation, and I'll talk you through it real quick. And it's a little bit humorous, but really say this. As you say this, do it. So calm yourself. Sit up straight in your chair if you're there. Put your hands on your lap. Close your eyes. And then take a deep, don't count. You don't have to count. Just take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe in that good shit. Then exhaling out through your mouth. Breathe out the bullshit. Breathe in the good shit. Exhale out the bullshit. If you do this, the breathing will calm you down. I find that mantra to be realistic and humorous, and it will help you. But that's some of my reflections, just in a quick flash. I could make, and of course I can get real in depth and make this into a long show, but I think you get the point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the pre-recorded interview I did with Sonia. It's well worth to listen to because there's a lot of commentary between both of us. And you take a listen to it, and I'll have a message at the end. All right, welcome to Thursday morning coffee rant with Dan. As promised, as I said before, this is going to be the end of the very last broadcast of the year 2024. Today's date that I'm actually pre-recording this was Psychic Sonia Hortzman. She is my psychic mentor. She taught me the tarot, and it has helped me, in my spiritual journey. And today's date is 12/24, December 24th, 2024. And Sonia, welcome to the show. Welcome back. Thank you for coming on to do this predictions for 2025.
Yeah. And for anybody who's Christian, Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm called to do my annual predictions. Now, me and you, I've done predictions before, but I've never done them publicly. Me and you, I've given you predictions privately, and they come true, and you're wowed. Maybe it's time to get them out there, so it's pre-recorded.
This is a good year for it.
I'm happy to do that. And then you've got some opinions on what I'm predicting.
Yes.
Okay, you want me to start?
Yes, absolutely. We need it.
Okay, so when I do predictions, I have to really have a moment and ground myself and clear my mind, and then project out and look at my little screen. And, when you're psychic, we describe it in different ways. What do you see? How do you know this? And it's like I'm looking at a movie screen, and I'm kind of looking ahead. Like I'm fast forwarding to see what's going to happen. And I'm waiting to see what comes through projection. If you will.
Are we talking about possible timelines as what you can see as you do this?
No, it's really hard because if I could really pinpoint stuff, honey, I'd be wealthy.
Right.
I could predict lotteries and all kinds of things. So no, we were only given enough as we need to know and share, and with how that impacts people I'm sure it's good.
Right.
It's not all bad. So Russia is still on my mind.
Okay.
I have a bad feeling that he's going to try and reclaim the former lands, especially the ones surrounding Ukraine. And he's not going to stop at Ukraine.
Okay.
He's not going to stop. Trump is not going to get him to stop. And I really am worried about Belarus. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Belarus?
Yes. Belarus.
I'm worried about that place. And I'm also worried about Serbia.
Okay.
So I think that these two places, Russia might want its lands back.
Gotcha.
And it could be the start of World War III.
Right. I think we're in that already, and these are just the rumblings that lead into like massive stuff. That makes sense. Okay.
Because he hasn't tried to do this yet. He's still dealing with Ukraine.
Right.
So there could be more aggression from Russia, and Trump said he would stop it, but I don't think he can. I'm also worried about a suspicious blackout.
Okay.
We'll call it that.
Right. Well, you got the drones flying all over New Jersey right now and all that stuff going on. And the central hub for the entire northern seaboard is.
Well, you didn't let me say it. You didn't let me say it. You're saying it.
Oh, go ahead.
Because I want to say it first is that I'm feeling northeastern coast of America.
Gotcha.
And I'm thinking February.
Okay.
So there could be, I know there's been troubles in the grid. That's just an easy prediction, but I think it's going to be suspicious.
Okay.
There's going to be some suspicious stuff that things are going to happen during those blackouts that are nefarious.
Oh, so the blackouts, and I find it interesting that well, that's not interesting. I think it's a certain type of a synchronicity, we could say, that it happens just probably in February, and I think it's the end of January where Trump actually takes office. So that's interesting. What kind of suspicious activity do you think that could happen when the lights are out?
Some people dying.
Okay, gotcha.
It's going to be some lives. I don't know what I'm seeing, but it's not good.
Okay.
But that would be. I wrote down February, by the way. Did I mention that yet?
Yes, you said February.
Okay, yeah. So February was my feeling, and so everybody needs to be prepared. Have your woolens, have your portable heaters, have your food supplies. Just in case. Of course, we should all be that way when winter comes.
Right.
When I look at Trump, and this is with taking out my own emotions over the political leader we have right now.
Right.
I'm seeing him stomping and hollering. And those were the words that I wrote down, stomp and holler. And then I'm writing, and I felt like his face showed revengefulness, that he's not letting it go. And that reminds me that he would be focusing on, he's not focusing on what he can do right. So I feel that there could be, the House goes into an uproar over his behavior of like, can't we get through this and focus on what we need to do right?
Yeah.
And then there could be a very much another assassination attempt, but the family was too close to him. Like, they're going to do it when his family is near him, which is unacceptable.
That feeds into the Hegelian dialectics that both parties are using. The two-party system, they supply the problem, then the solution, and get people to fight one another over it. And Trump supported red flag laws, which is if you're somebody who has a mind of your own, basically. He was supporting the confiscations of firearms, which we know won't happen, but I think he's going to do that just to put fear into the base. That's all. They're never going to get our guns, but that's just
you think that's what the uproar is going to be?
I think that's just one side effect. That would be just one of the things. I think the uproar will be I'm not the psychic, but just from my conspiratorial, conspiratorial analyst, I think that everything that they're doing is to create this dialectic, and they want to put fear out there so they can get the base fearful that, they're going to come take our guns, and they get the other base fearful of something else. They're just creating that fight. So you think that's going to happen again, and it's going to be near his family, so that's going to make it even worse.
Yeah, I think that they really need to watch him.
Okay.
Because I personally don't wish anybody dead, and especially family members.
Right.
That's not acceptable. Nobody needs to die. I don't believe in it.
Right.
And also the aliens. And let me tell you again what I feel about this whole, besides being psychic and doing predictions, I'm going to say it again.
Right.
If the government, if we find out for sure that the government has allowed those aliens to grab a few of us or experiment on a few of us, or do horrific things to us, I'm telling you, there's not one soul or one human that's worth that deal.
Right.
Because that is somebody's child, brother, sister, mother, father. That is family. Somebody's family is missing that person. I don't agree with us making any kind of deals with aliens that involves them torturing, mutilating, experimenting on humans. Sorry, I just don't.
The Travis Walton, if I jumped in here with one of my conspiracy theories, the Travis Walton case was a very famous case of he was abducted and then he was returned 5 days later unscathed. So what you're alluding to is, we already know that hundreds of thousands of people go missing every year, and human trafficking is a serious problem. But what you're alluding to is the government gives them permission to abduct, but they're allowed to keep a few. And that's what's wrong. If that gets out, that's what's going to create.
If they take one child, one person, and tortures them, to me, unwarranted and unwelcomed experiments or, testing done on a human, that's going to be freaking terrifying and horrible. I don't think not one person should be able to go through that. And
that's going to create anger and fear of extraterrestrials, which will further create. So what it sounds like what we're going on in coming into 2025 is going to be a year of polycrisis, which is multiple crises happening at once. It's called a polycrisis year. That's crazy. Okay.
What I think is going to be happening also with aliens. So if we find that out that they made a deal and sacrificed a certain amount of humans, we gotta shut that down. That's not okay. That's not okay that they got permission to just pick up whoever they want, do stuff to them, and drop them off 5 days later. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's not okay. Travis was traumatized.
Yeah, he was, and he wasn't. For anyone who hasn't seen, they made the movie called Fire. What was it called?
Fire in the Sky.
Fire in the Sky. And in the movie, I noticed this. This is the cop in me. I see things. I can see stuff in the town hall thing towards the end. The town hall meeting in the movie. The real Travis Walton was actually one of the extras in there. I was like, oh, there he is. But yeah.
Okay, I got more to say about aliens.
Okay.
I think that now that there's disclosures with aliens, we are suddenly going to come up with more crop circles. And that the Avery Plains, where Stonehenge is, I think they will start there, and then they're going to be like, oh, they did this. Well, then overnight, the same pattern is going to show up in middle Australia, middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Or somewhere where it could be seen. Maybe a train goes by it or a plane goes by it or something. But it's going to be like the same one. Like they're going to replicate it like all the way across the other side of the world overnight again.
Do you think
it's going to be replica?
It sounds like these are going to be natural ley lines of power that you've taught me about that are on this planet. Are they hitting those areas for a reason, you think?
Yeah, and I think that could be possibly why Stonehenge was targeted for a burial ground and a sacred place to come together. They discovered thousands, millions of bones underneath the Avery Plains and Stonehenge. That was a place where you brought the bones of your ancestors to be buried. It was a communal burial ground, and they waited for the moonrise, not the sunrise. They worshipped the moon.
Okay.
And they were it was a very ceremonial place. Now that's a place where UFOs are often seen making petroglyphs in the wheat, or they're making presence known there. That would be why they would erect such a monument, perhaps.
Okay.
And I also think that there is going to be an obvious. There's a reason why we're not allowed to go and do stuff in Antarctica, but I think there's a presence of aliens in Antarctica.
Okay. Let me say something real quick. If you remember the movie Thor 2011, whenever the Einstein-Rosenberg bridge would come and Thor would go over the Rainbow Bridge and hit the ground, there was always those circles, like crop circles left in the ground. I believe that's a perfect allegory to how these things are being made.
You know what I think they're being made?
How?
I think they have a little tool that comes out of the UFO, and it's like a little orb. Maybe it's a big orb. I don't know. It's an orb. And it spins around like it's almost like a 3D printer above the ground, and the message is projected and put into a pattern by that little thing that hovers above. Because they've had videos of these orbs-like things in a field, and later the next day they found a crop circle.
There was an orb just spotted above New York also, or New Jersey, and so somebody pointed out that is not a drone. That's actually an orb. Someone said the word orb. So, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, things can be disguised in light.
Right.
Coming up for the United States, there's a couple good things I can see. Even though the rental crisis is out of hand right now, I believe that local governments, your local county governments and state governments and stuff are going to start looking at the homeless population versus crime. The mentally ill population out as homeless as a problem in the city. We have to start taking care of our own.
Right.
I think they're going to start rehabbing or rebuilding new places, bigger shelters, bigger places, and start pouring some money into the citizens that need care. So that's a good news for us that we may really
So that'll help some
focusing on the
people.
homeless problem.
That's going to help some people.
You know, Reagan and what was in the 70s, Reagan totally let everybody loose in the institutions and they all went homeless and the crime went up 50%.
Well, let me say this: with all the border crossings that they've contrived and they've allowed to happen, we've got the same thing going on. And this is my conspiratorial mindset. If they built all these different buildings, like these projects, like this 10-story building that I'm in, for instance, and with the releasing of more viruses, one person in that building gets a virus, conspiratorial thinking, and of course, we know I catastrophize, they can then quarantine that whole building, which is one of the things I think they're trying to do as they do smart cities, but it's going to still help some people, though.
Wait. But that one person, if you had it organized and people get tested and then quarantined, that's better than a homeless person, you know, like Typhoid Mary walking among everybody, going in and out of stores and spreading it everywhere.
Yeah, and they thrive and feed within their contradiction. So I can see both aspects of it within this. So that's okay. That's interesting.
And then my last good news is I think that we're all going to have something like the Garden of Eden or Noah's Garden. This comes to mind when I think of Noah's Garden, Garden of Eden, that our food stinks, sucks, it's not good, it's processed, it's chemicals, it's pesticides, it's bioengineered, it's all this. So I feel that the children or the youth coming up, I think they're going to put that back into schools, you know, organic gardening, sustaining, you know, off the grid, sustainable. I think it's going to be something we're going to have to start teaching and doing.
Yeah.
So if any of you were thinking about maybe starting a company in the next year or so, you know, do a company where you come in and you build my garden boxes and put up the fences. You build me a little, you know, garden shed.
You know, and that'd be a way to create wealth for certain people, right?
Just like a lawn service. You come and you're a garden service.
Okay.
And you come and plant there. You could even go buy plants at the local whatever greenhouse for 50 cents, come back and sell it for $3 a pot. You know what I mean? People will buy it. They're lazy. Nobody wants to do it themselves.
I got a friend in Florida, Corey Enderlot, and I spent some time with him in January, and they do a lot of gardening there. This is something he's going to be very happy to hear about, because what it does is his whole thing is returning to nature. You know, nature is the answer. Nita.1 is his website. And that's all they do is gardening. And funny enough, at 53 years old, for me, in the 70s, when I was going to Cleveland public schools, back behind Benjamin Franklin School, we all were taught in the 1st and 2nd grade for 3 years. We all had gardens. They were teaching that in the 70s, actually even in public school. So that's coming back.
Well, I think it also will come back into as the excess can be onto a truck, because there is a truck here in Oberlin. We have a community service truck that is borrowed by a young woman who takes the time to go to all the Amish markets and all the people who are growing have extra. She loads her van up and then she schedules a visit to a poor neighborhood. And then she sets out a table and everybody comes running with their bag. It's all free choice. Bags of potatoes, bags of onions, carrots, everything. Even frozen meats that are about ready to, you know, they can't maybe sell.
Right.
There's things that they can donate. Most of it's vegetables. It's like a vegetable produce thing, but maybe you set up this garden and then you get something off your taxes, or you get an incentive for farming. Okay. And you give back the food to the community. I mean, face it, I had so much food this year in my tiny little garden.
Yes.
I gave it away to everybody. I mean, I gave it away.
Well, you also had a couple of your last few years, your chickens. A lot of people are going to get chickens because even though I'm a vegetarian, or a fishitarian, I should say, eggs are still on my diet. So I used to love your eggs.
Yeah. So
people are going to probably start doing that as well, you were saying.
The egg person.
Yeah.
barter for firewood and vegetables. Give me
Right.
firewood in the winter, and I'll give you eggs. Give me vegetables during the summer, I'll give you eggs and maybe a chicken. You know,
Right.
maybe I'll cook a chicken. I'll chop you up a chicken. But I mean, we're gonna, some of these rural areas and places where people just don't have cars anymore. It's too expensive to have a car. Starting to wind down, retire. I think Noah's Garden is going to be the thing, and people need to think about this as a possible business now.
Yeah, and I know people that want businesses and they make money because they want to use that money to donate it and help. So having a business where this is your job, yeah, I could see that being very lucrative, especially for people in the South who can grow food all year round.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like people who are hobbyists, do what you do good for a living. Like my son, he really should be doing fish tanks at all the swanky doctors' offices, because he can maintain fish tanks all day long.
Right.
He loves fish tanks.
Right.
He loves fish. He loves the fish tanks. He knows all about them.
Right.
So you clean them, scrub the glass, do the testing. He could be paid really well to go around and take care of people's fish tanks. If you're into that, do that.
Right.
If you're into, you like to cut the grass, oh my gosh, people pay big time to cut grass.
Right.
There's so many things coming up. I mean, entrepreneurially.
So you're seeing also,
to get into it.
is it safe to say you're seeing there's going to be job crises and problems? So this is going to be another way of actually people trying to mitigate that a little bit?
Well, you've heard me already predict that. I said that there's going to be a depression.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like 2028, 29, 30.
Okay.
I told you that before.
Yeah, and people are going to have to team up and live together to actually just survive. It's going to be, yeah, okay.
And there's going to be bartering, People barter.
Right.
But thanks for having me on the show. This was real.
No, that's cool. Did you see anything else? Like, did you see anything else with
For you?
Well, no, not for me personally. Well, yeah, we could do me on the air if you want one thing or another. I don't care. But what do you see for me?
I don't see you buying a house this year, but possibly next year. You'll probably end up renting, but I think that there could be a possibility of rent to own.
Okay.
So there could be a possibility you get, you don't be late on any of your bills. You get everything, you get your credit perfect, and you downsize and minimalize like you do.
Right.
And you could do it. You could do it. I know you will.
Is there any chance of extraterrestrials actually giving me a real hammer of Thor so I can become Thor for a little bit and save the world, and then I'll give it back after about a week after I show off to my friends?
Yeah, sure. You're going to come visit me, and we're going to go knock some heads.
Okay, cool. All right, cool.
I'm going after Putin first, okay?
Yeah. So is there anything that, I just seen a video of this guy talking about a possible dirty bomb being set off like in New York or with all the things that they're doing. Do you see any type of disastrous things like that?
Well, I predicted for you before that I feel that they're going to come back and finish off what they unaccomplished on 9/11.
Okay.
One of their targets was D.C.
Right.
On top of the White House, and they did not succeed in taking down the Pentagon.
Yeah, they shot that flight down that was over Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So there could be a retaliatory. I can't predict when, but I know if World War III breaks out, it's going to be because of either Syria or Russia.
Right.
There's going to be some big issues. Yeah, we're going to have to watch them.
Well, we talked about something that gives people hope is one that they're probably not going to be able to use nuclear powered weapons because extraterrestrials won't allow it. And the other thing I think, which is just what you've said with the gardening and being able to have that kind of wealth and create a business and generational wealth, there's some hope for America. It's not like we're lost.
Well, Noah's Garden is what came to me in the vision.
Okay, so kind of
Noah's Garden would have been in a time when there wasn't no pesticides. There would have been wild land surrounding his little plot. It would have been, he learned to do this. It wasn't like given to him. He learned to do it by trial and error. And I think that we should stay away from the bioengineered feeds and foods.
Poison.
And try to get back to the natural foods that Noah would have had.
Okay.
People the clean food.
Okay. See, I like that we did this. I don't even know how long we've been going, but we'll be wrapping it up here in a second. But thank you for coming on. I like how we were straight to the point in under a half hour. I seen someone else who did one of these, and they had like a 3-hour podcast on what they thought was going to go on, and it's just excessive. You can't get people to listen for that long, so you've kind of spelled it out.
Yeah, thank you. I wrote it down too for you, and I will take a screenshot of it after I hang up, okay?
Okay, thanks a lot, Sonia. And
right.
Do you have anything you want to plug for yourself, for your businesses coming up, or anything you got going on?
Well, I want to mention that I finally made it into Small Town Monsters production. Small Town Monsters they make movies, and they are shown on Netflix. Right. And I'm being shown in the Buckeye Bigfoot.
I just watched that last night, people. It was an awesome show. It does paint a lot of things together. All right.
And then I also want to plug that I do help people with their ghost problems here in Northern Ohio. I can advise over the phone, but I'm not traveling outside of Ohio. I have horses, so.
I got you. Understood.
If anybody wants a gift certificate and a psychic reading, I can read anybody in the country or overseas.
She can do it on the phone, and she's pretty good at it, actually. It's shocking. Though, you know what? I just want to thank you for coming on. I'm going to stop the recording now. We'll talk a little bit afterwards. And folks, that's Psychic Sonia Hortzman. Thank you.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Okay. So now it's back to me on the air here. Let's see. Okay. So those are the predictions for 2025. 2025 is going to be a 9 year. This past year was an 8 year. 8 in the tarot would be the strength card, where people need to have courage, strength. And the 9 year is the hermit card, but the hermit's also about enlightenment. So truth is coming out in 2025. It's a 9 year. 9 in itself is a number that signifies the ending of something and the beginning of something else. So this is a polycrisis year coming up, folks. I'm going to leave you guys with a few things here that's very important. I personally want to pray for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. None of us are going to have peace collectively while we allow the immorality of violence to be conducted upon others. And I think it would really behoove humanity to fix this before Mother Nature does. Okay? And I've said this before, and it's not cliche. When I was on my deathbed, all that was left was love. All that mattered was love. And love has to win out. Love has to drive us to action. Love has to drive us to teach what is true morality, what our rights are. You know, my message to the order followers out there, I've been kind of tough on you guys sometimes because I am an ex-order follower. I was a former United States Marine, and I took an oath to protect this country from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. They confuse the hell out of you on who the enemy is. Discernment is needed, my fellow Marines. I want you to remember Tarawa, Iwo Jima, the Revolutionary War, all the freedom and moral wars that the United States Marines fought in. They're weakening our military, but there's a lot of Marines out here. Are you going to hold your oath? Will you uphold your oath to protect those and fight for those who can't fight for themselves? Like,
all stand together for the world to see. Now the time is right to live out all our dreams. Say the words forever. Your strength will never leave. If you want to win the fight, say I believe. From the darkness I walk into the light. From the day I walk into the night. From the shadows I will appear with a message for all who will hear. For the weak of heart I will be strong. To the defenders of faith I will belong. To the last of us, fight till we die. will never leave.